damage to 3 engines.
Copy. Anybody burned?
Too early to tell. Let it cool down when we get out. All right. So far, looks good.
That's real good. Don't get
Copy that.
And the engines are secondary.
So far, extensive damage to 3 engines. They were burned over. Wow, I see 240. Do you know whereabouts on the fire they're located? I haven't been able to see them.
And right in the middle of that dang thing. It spotted it all the way around and with that 360-degree wind shifts that we had there, and they got right in the middle of it. It's kind of a little bit on the south, if anything, on the southwest side of it, but towards the middle.
Hello, my name is Wayne Chandler. I'm the Fire Management Officer on the Modoc National Forest. Today, I, along with Bob Sheehy, Battalion Chief for the Lassen Modoc Ranger Unit of the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, would like to take a moment to explain the film you're about to see. By late August of 1987, much of the forest fields in California were tinder dry due to the prolonged drought. On Sunday afternoon, August 30th, the crank fire was ignited by lightning approximately 20 miles north of the town of Bieber. It was one of many lightning fires that occurred in California that afternoon. Consequently, it was about 6 acres in size before 2 Modoc National Forest engines, Engine 4 and Engine 6, CDF Engine 2276, and a 14-person CDF hand crew made an initial attack on the fire. The 25 men and women were making a direct attack on the fire as it burned slowly in a timbered area containing old logging slash. At approximately 17:20 hours, a thunderstorm cell moved over the fire, bringing extremely erratic 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. The fire immediately crowned out, spotted, and surrounded the crews, cutting off their escape routes. They were trapped. The crews quickly began enlarging their safety zone. Utilizing the engines and their fire shelters, they remained under cover while the fire burned over them approximately 4 or 5 times. The 4 crew supervisors' ability to stay calm and prevent panic among their crews, plus the close coordination in the use of fire shelters and subsequent safe evacuation of the area, limited the injuries to several first and second degree burns, some minor eye irritation, and smoke inhalation. The 3 engines were totally destroyed. Now Bob will show you in more detail what happened that day.
The crank fire burnover was a significant event for the United States Forest Service and the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. Significant in 2 ways. First, 25 firefighters were able to survive being trapped in a forest inferno for over 1 hour. They used the best of leadership skills, they worked as a team, and they used all of their personal safety gear correctly. The other significance is the fact that most of the incident was actually videotaped by an aircraft flight crew that went to the scene of the fire to evaluate aerial retardant drops. Now, to better understand what took place that afternoon, we're going to go to a map. The crank fire, originally designated Lightning Fire 3-2, was located in a timbered area 300 yards west of Kenny Flat. 3 important geographical references in Kenny Flat should be noted. Battalion Chief Jerry Quigley set up his command post at the north edge of the meadow just after the crews became trapped. He became the Bieber IC. There's a small stock pond that was used by Copter 202 for bucket drops. The southwest end of Kenny Flat is where the crew buses were parked. From where Intermountain Crew 4 parked, the fire was located 600 yards up an overgrown logging skid trail. The first unit at the scene was Air Tanker 140 at 16:15 hours. The aircraft made a retardant drop on the northeast edge of the fire, where it had been burning the hottest. He then returned to base for fuel and more retardant. Intermountain Crew 4 arrived at the fire at 16:30 hours and began constructing handline on the upper left flank, using the skid trail as their anchor point. The 3 engines responding to the fire made their way slowly up the windy skid trail, arriving at scene at 16:50 hours. After a quick face-to-face meeting, the 4 crew supervisors deployed their crews according to their fire suppression plan. CDF Engine 2276 was positioned on the skid trail at the handline anchor point and supported Intermountain Crew 4 with a hose lay. MODOK Engine 4 was positioned midway on the left flank to extinguish several large down cedar logs that were burning. MODOK Engine 6 was spotted at the heel of the fire and began running a progressive hose lay up the right flank. The 4 crew supervisors planned to tie together in a small clearing near the head of the fire. At approximately 1700 hours, a high-level thunderstorm cell moved over the fire, causing extremely erratic surface winds, estimated at 50 miles per hour. The fire literally exploded, sending firebrands a quarter of a mile in all directions. Engine 6 operator Dave McMasters reported that the skid trail to their south was blocked by fire and dense smoke. CDF Captain Bob Togstead ordered all of the crews to move to his position. Intermountain Crew 4's leader, Captain Sullivan, told Togstead that the fire also blocked their escape route to the north. The 4 crew leaders quickly decided to use a small clearing to their west as the safety zone. The old log landing was only 24 by 48 feet in size, so their first action was to fall as many standing trees as possible to enlarge the clearing. The engines were parked in the center of the clearing. Then at 1723 hours, the timber around them began to crown out. Captain Togstead, using the PA system on his engine, ordered everyone to take shelter. There were 5 firefighters in the crew cab of Engine 6, 3 firefighters in the cab of Engine 2276, and 3 firefighters in the cab of Engine 4. Intermountain Crew 4 deployed their shelters in 2 locations. There were 8 firefighters and their leader next to Engine 2276, and 5 firefighters next to Engine 4. The fire slowly passed over the crews. At 1730 hours, the Retardant Evaluation Team, or 1, arrived and began videotaping the fire. At 1735 hours, the wind shifted 180 degrees and began to reburn from the west towards the engines. Engine 6 took the first blast of sustained direct flame on its exposed left flank. A minute later, wind shifted clockwise 90 degrees and fire hit Engine 2276 with a solid wall of flame from the north. The winds then shifted 180 degrees counterclockwise, causing a third flame run to hit the back of Engine 4. One of the inmate firefighters was forced out of his shelter and took refuge in the cab of Engine 4. At 1741 hours, the exposed flanks of Engine 6 and Engine 2276 began to burn. Captain Togstead attempted to radio Engine 6 and Engine 4 to tell them to evacuate the engines. The crews from Engine 6 and 2276 moved to the skid trail and deployed their shelters. Some of the inmate firefighters followed them out. Captain Togstead went back to his engine and got the remaining inmate firefighters and their leader to leave the safety zone and redeploy their shelters on the skid trail. The crew on Engine 4 gave the inmate firefighter their spare shelter, then they abandoned their engine and moved to the skid trail. The redeployment process took only 4 minutes. All 25 firefighters were deployed in a single line, side by side. After 10 minutes of intense fire behavior, Captain Sullivan and Togstead looked through the burning vegetation and saw what appeared to be a fire shelter near the back of Engine 4. The 2 captains attempted to get up and move towards the burning engine, but were forced to stay in place due to the extreme heat. They were unaware that one of the inmate firefighters had abandoned his shelter earlier. Captain Togstead, using Sullivan's handy-talkie, radioed a message to Intermountain Crew 1 that he thought that there were some severe burn injuries. The fully involved engines burned too intensely for the crew leaders to ever get a closer look. At 1804 hours, the fire intensity began to subside, and the trapped firefighters started walking out the skid trail with CDF Copter 202 cooling their route down with water and retardant foam drops. At 1811 hours, the crews reached the safety of the meadow, and all 25 firefighters were accounted for. Now we will go to the scene of the burnover for an interview with CDF Fire Captain Bob Togstead. Then we will see the ore flight video.
The service crew and the Intermountain crew, along with my crew, was following and pushing them over, doing whatever we can to get the trees on the ground and dragging them out of this area that I'm pointing to behind me. I brought the 2 Forest Service engines in there, backed them into place. I still had my engine out here so they could get in. I then went and got my engine because it started heating up. It had already burned into tops of the trees on our northwest side also. I went ahead and pulled my engine down into there, informed the crew leaders of the Forest Service engines to go ahead and get in their engines. I informed the Intermountain crew leader to go ahead and deploy their shelters. And they had a 14-man crew, 13 in the leader, and to get as close to the engines as they could and just stay right in this refuge area that we made up. In a period that seemed like 3 to 5 minutes, hard to judge, the heat got very intense, but it looked like the fire was passing us. It was coming around us on both sides. It was coming at us from the southwest and the northwest, and running in the tops of trees, crowning. Looked like a lot of Roman candles all around us, trees going right to the top, but moving fast. I thought at that point the fire was going to pass us. What happened was, it went by us, and I kept looking up. I glanced up, and the two fires that went by us kind of simultaneously come back to a point. The fire blew by us on both sides in kind of a pinching effect. It came out in front of us and seemed to simultaneously come together about 60, 70 feet in front of us. At that point in time, I looked up through the windshield of the engine, and I could see the wind had completely shifted and was now coming out of the west at such a velocity it made a wall of fire that almost looked like a wave coming right at us. Solid flame, very little smoke, just looked like solid flame. At that point in time, my spare tire was on fire. It had blew. Just a little bit after that, I informed the firefighters that we couldn't stay in the engine, we had to get out. So I went ahead and had them deploy their shelters as far as getting them out of the plastic inside the engine. I got mine out. I said, follow me, I'm going to lead you out. I got out of the engine, told the Forest Service, get out of their engines and come on, out the driver's side because the passenger side was on fire at that time. Get in your shelters, get down about 2 feet apart, place your feet towards the engines. I went back in with my shelter draped over my head, got the rest of the crew out and the crew leader, which were in this area here, and there was a couple more of them there and back there. I looked up once, and it looked like it was calming down. I tried to get up, and Sullivan was going to get up with me because I thought we might still have somebody in there. When I tried to get up, I saw a shelter back here in the burn, close to this engine that you just saw, and I thought we still had somebody in here. Intermountain 1, which was the second-hand crew in, had been at the meadow when all this took place. They had started in, hit the fire, saw how intense it was, and it went back out. I was lucky enough to make contact with them, and they relayed to Battalion 2213 that we all had to get in our shelters, and we were sure we had some burn victims, and we needed help to get out. About that time, I heard Copter 202. No idea the estimation of time we were in the shelters. Seemed like hours, probably was 20 minutes. Told Copter 202 on the radio, got him on my handy-talkie, he said, we need some drops so we can get out of here. They couldn't find us because of the smoke and the intense heat. They went ahead and told them, Intermountain did, if you follow where the buses are now, right straight in, you should come right to them. They came in that way, they made a drop with a bucket. I felt just a little bit of the mist on the front side of my shelter, which would be the east side. I called Captain Bear on the radio and said, Bob, you're real close. Try to bring that drop back to the west, and you'll be right on it. The second drop hit us direct. When it did, I told people we had to get out of there and get the rest of the way out. So we had a lot of hot embers going over the top of us, but other than that, just the heat, there wasn't any real problem to get up and leave. I went and checked every shelter and shook them and said, are you guys all right? Everybody answered up. While we were in the shelters, for the most part, the people closest to me, I could hear them talking. They were talking, trying to stay calm between themselves, talking about going back to school, just chit-chat to try and keep calm and so their nerves weren't gone. We got up. I told them to start out single file, make sure they could see the person in front of them. We started the Forest Service crew out first and my crew. I stayed with the hand crew and Sullivan. We made a fast head count, determined by his head count that we were too short, and tried to go back into this area of the engines to see if anybody was still here, but it was so intense we couldn't do it. Told Sullivan we were going to have to leave, we'd have to come back. We started out on our way out, which was approximately 150 feet, still through some hot areas that were burning on both sides of this. The chopper made, I thought, 4 drops, maybe 3 drops, a lot of good hits that were landing right on us as we were coming out and spraying us with water. The Intermountain crew came in as far as they could. Intermountain wanted to meet up with us. When we reached them, they went ahead and we separated the crews and we did another count of the hand crew, and they were all there. So other than that, it was just a big relief. We all went out to the meadow, and when we got there was some Forest Service supervisors there. Shortly thereafter, 2213 was there, and we tried to assess the damage, how many people were seriously hurt. You can see by this area right here that the heat was so intense, the fire was so devastating in such a short period of time that if we'd have tried to stay here and if we wouldn't have had the shelter, we'd have been gone.
24001 on blue. Sorry, Dave, had the volume down. You copy? And 240 is on, or 01 is on scene at 7,000. Copy, and there is a single-engine airplane down low there, eastbound right now. Okay, we're climbing.
Crew. We were the last engines in, and that I talked to Keith Bryan off engine 4, and he said that we were to hold the right flank of the fire. Off the skid trail, there's a hand line going off in the left. We used a hard line and initially started to put out a progressive hose lay. At that time, the flank blew up, spotting across the road and crowning on both sides of the road. We moved up to engine 4 and the CDF engine, of which I told him what had happened, and he could see it from there. When I pulled up, I found that my original safety zone was the burn, was not a valid safety zone. At this time, we discussed with Bob Toxted to use the clearing as our safety zone and move the engines in there and to improve it.
Blue Air.
Air Attack 240, go.
You can show us on scene the incident at Crank Mountain with Beaver IC. What aircraft do I have assigned other than 202 and R1?
Okay, your fire is 3-2. It was tanker 140 and 902 committed to your incident. Copter 202 will be...
When I got back in the engine after foaming down behind it and the first wave was approaching, the second the first wave of flame hit the trucks, you could feel the trucks move with it with such intensity. It was at that time that we really realized that we had a much more serious situation than we were going to expect. We first thought that the fire was just going to kind of edge around the opening we had and maybe burn the paint on the trucks, but we'd be okay. When the first wall of flame hit, it was obvious that we had a real serious problem. The first wave of flame hit engine 6 broadside, and we watched the flames wrap over the roof of the truck and around the front, and the red light was gone instantly in the heat. That lasted 15, 20 seconds, and then it started calming down. At that time, I told my driver to give me the pump. I got out of the truck, grabbed the hard line, and started putting out some of the small spot fires that were around the inmates who were in their shelters next to the truck. They had, one of their packs was laying between 2 of the shelters, and it was on fire. And I put that out, and I also put out some small spots around the trucks. About that time, we could hear the roar starting to come up again, and I got back in the cab of the truck, and the second wave of flame hit the CDF engine broadside. The spare tire was immediately on fire, and it looked like the whole side of the truck was just involved.
Attack 240, Susanville. Blue.
Susanville, 240.
Okay, both tankers are in Chester. Tanker 140 is almost finished refueling. Tanker 92 is waiting for fuel. OR1 is also in your area.
Yeah, we've got contact with OR1. Understand tankers are fueling. 40.
Okay, your ground contact will be Beaver IC on 151.265, the old Region 2 net.
Affirmative, I've been talking with him. Copy that,
Thank you,
number
240.
151.265. Okay.
Attack 240, go ahead. Beaver IC.
Tankers are on the ground in Chester. One's about finished fueling. The other one still has to fuel before it comes out. So it's going to be probably half an hour anyway, probably.
Copy.
Yeah, I got him.
Beaver IC, engine 2276.
Go ahead.
Went over us, and we're going to have extensive damage to 3 engines.
Copy. Anybody burned?
Too early to tell. Let it cool down when we get out. All right. So far, looks good.
Sounds real good. Don't get shot.
Copy that.
And the engines are secondary.
So far, extensive damage to 3 engines. They were burned over. Wow, I see 240. Do you know whereabouts on the fire they're located? I haven't been able to see them.
And right in the middle of that dang thing. It's spotted all the way around and with that 360-degree wind shifts that we had there, and they got right in the middle of it. It's kind of a little bit on the south, if anything, on the southwest side of it, but towards the middle.
Okay, I'll be watching. Get for the smoke. You got numerous spots out here to the northeast off of it now, burning into a large meadow. For the bulk of the fire, but got spots around it all over.
Yeah, I'm just to the north of that. You should have picked up my pickup by now. I see all them spots out in the meadow. They are no concern.
Yeah, just let you know.
How bad a spotting did we get
So,
on the west end?
yeah, I got in,
North end, that'd be the concern.
sat there, and the first wave hit, and I'd always thought about being burned over, and I just envisioned it of being just, crowning over the top and maybe, getting a little bit hot in there, but I had no idea how intense it was going to be. And when it laid along the ground, it was pretty scary. It was, just felt my whole body just, leaning away from the heat. It was just so unbelievably hot. And stayed in there, it seemed like forever.
Susanville, Beaver IC.
Beaver IC, Susanville.
Yeah, we got some engines burned over on this thing. Don't know the damage yet, but there are some damage to some engines. They deployed shelters, and we'll know here in a little bit.
All right, copy. We'll wait for your instructions.
Copy.
Lead 3-2, air attack.
Intermountain Crew 1 or Crew 4, Beaver IC.
He's in his shelter, Jerry, alongside me.
Is that Crew 4?
Affirmative.
Intermountain Crew 1, Beaver IC.
Jerry, we had to back out to this flat. We're right straight across from your pickup on the flat here. And we're going to try and go in on this south flank, cut the hand line in on this south flank.
Copy. Keep the flat to one side of you there. No, don't get back in there where that crown fire can run on you. Also, the buses, we might want to think about moving them buses down there on that south end and get them back out to the road or back into the flat or something.
That's affirmative. In order to do that, I'm going to have to abandon this flanking line here. if the buses were still a ways out, if you could kind of keep me appraised of which way this thing is running. If it's still running to the northwest, we're all right in here. But if it starts running back to the southwest, we're going to have to move them.
Yeah, why don't you just work yourself back to that, back to them buses and make that a priority now. That flat there, we can pick that up real quick with a dozer across there, and I'd just as soon get them buses out of the way at this time.
That's affirmative. We'll work back and move the buses back out to the main old railroad grade, right? Beaver, I see.
Yeah, either the main old grade there or out in the flat and cut a line around them, whatever, but just get them in a safe area.
That's affirmative.
Susanville, Beaver, I see. Go ahead.
Copter 202 is refueling. It can be under fuel. They're coming over your inset and contact you.
I copy.
1741
Engine 6, engine 2276.
They're going to have a hill.
Engine 4, engine 2276.
Instantly inside the cabs. At that time, Engine 6 had already come out of their truck and had deployed their shelters between the two engines. This time, my driver brought to my attention that the steering wheel was smoking. And on the dash, we had a 1-quart canteen with a half full of water, and the water was boiling. So I realized that we didn't have long to wait inside the cab of the truck. It was time to get ready to leave. I asked everybody if they knew where their shelters were. They told me where they were, or they reached for them. The inmate said, "I haven't got a shelter." I said, "Don't worry, we have an extra one." So when I made the decision to get out of the truck, I had everybody group up on the passenger side. I gave the inmate the spare shelter. We deployed our shelters right next to the truck and just wrapped them around it standing up. And the difference in wrapping the shelter around you was like going from an oven into an air-conditioned building. It just took out all the heat, and you almost felt like you were going to get shivers. It was so cool. And then
They're not in the middle of that flare-up. Steve, have you seen those engines at all? No, I haven't seen it. Out of the north, and they were probably up the north end of the fire inside the dipper there in the switch. Yeah. Well, nobody's hurt.
Engine 2276, Beaver, I see.
Right on your tail below you.
Engine 2276, Beaver, I see.
Westwood.
When you get up there, see if you can make contact.
Engine 2276, Beaver, I see.
On what they're doing. Beaver, I see Intermountain 1.
Yeah, go ahead, Intermountain 1.
Jerry, I think they're probably down in their fire shelters. We've heard a couple of explosions around there that sounded like tires.
Yeah, copy. Where them engines are at?
They're covered with smoke right now, but from where I saw them, it does appear to be starting to cool down a little bit, although it's still very hot in there. The ground fire is going past them. It's just a lot of heat. The ground fire.
Copy.
We got spots out here to the south of this thing. They're probably going to burn back into the fire here too in a period of time. If there's some unburned, they'll probably reburn it. Try out again.
Fire shelters out. And when I got out of the engine, there were people everywhere, so there wasn't a lot of room. And the rest of the crew laid down or knelt down right there, and there really wasn't any room for me. So I went to the back of the engine, out behind the back, and I don't think I was thinking too clearly because I knew I had to breathe. I was having a real hard time breathing. But the first thing I did was wrap my shelter around me, and it was like just a breath of fresh air. It cooled things down. I'd had to take my gloves off to get my shelter open, so my hands were pretty hot trying to hold the shelter. I remember that. But I could finally breathe again and get some fresh air. And I was standing back there, and Keith came around the engine, and he was spraying water between the two engines, and he didn't have his shelter on yet. And I didn't understand how he could be out there, and I'd just been so hot, and he was out there without a shelter on, spraying down the engine. And finally I started thinking again, and I could get some oxygen, and finally I heard him say that we're going to move out. And I went up and caught up with everybody, and we started walking out the skid trail to go where we'd later put down our shelters on the trail again.
He's probably just about 2 minutes out coming in from the south. You might watch for him. He'll be on blue air.
Engine 2276 or Intermountain Crew 4, Beaver IC.
Boy, look at that go, Steve. That is unbelievable. R2-240 on blue. 4-2. And how far out are you? We're about 5 south. Okay, our altitude over the fire is 6.5. We may use your command back up. You'll see a clearing here by some blue buttons to the south of the fire. Yeah, that's probably about the best place for you to put down for now. And or, let me get with the IC. You may want a quick ride around this thing. We haven't been able to contact the crews for a while. Okay. IC, air attack.
Air attack IC, go ahead.
202 is about 5 minutes out, and I got OR2, another helicopter, Hughes 500, about 5 miles out. Both will be available for medevac if you need them. Where would you like them?
I want 202 to get bucket on and start dropping in there where them engines are just as soon as possible. And if we get any retardant anywhere in the air, put it in the same place. We've got to cool that area down for them.
Okay, and OR2 is Hughes 500. Where would you like me to put him down? They're the retardant evaluation team, but the helicopter's available for you to use after we put the crew out.
I got a spot right out in front of my pickup here. It'd be fine, air attack. You see where I'm parked?
Yeah, you're there with the Forest Service pickup.
That's affirmative. Right out here in the flat, it'd be fine.
Okay. And what do you want to do with the helicopter 202 crew?
I want him to bring his crew in and drop on this east side of it here, and they can start. We can get that crew out and stuff. They can just set up a helibase here on the east side right now until we get this crew thing out of the way.
Okay, over there by you.
That'd be fine, I think.
OR2-240. OR2. Okay, coming in on the east side of the fire across open flat. You'll see a green pickup and a red pickup parked on the east side of that flat. We want you to sit down there. Engine 2260 says copy yours. And the IC will be in the red pickup there, same as yours, the engine 2260. Copy.
At T-2 to
240, on the location of the fire now. We're trying to make access. Okay, we want to put you in the same area. What IC he wants is to get your crew out there right in front of his pickup, and then we'll put the helicopter to work with bucket drop in the area where the crew's trapped. 202, you copy?
I understand you want us to set down there by the IC's pickup?
Yeah, he's on the east side of the fire here across this big open flat. You'll be able to see him. Advise when you're about a half a mile out. There is one little pond here in the middle of that flat, which I think we can start dipping out of. I don't know how deep it is.
Copy.
Or 2240 Blue Air. Go ahead. Yeah, advise when you're half a mile out from the fire, okay?
We're right here at the east side right now.
240, Tanker 140 on blue for you. Don't see you.
We're headed into the big areas, big openings.
Okay, you're clear to go in and land near the pickups there to the west of them.
Yeah, go ahead, engine 2276. Air attack, or to blue.
We're on shelters now, Jerry. The top.
Yeah, where's that red pickup truck? I saw two buses, but I didn't see the truck.
Now, so they won't have to fight these ambers. We should be able to get out.
I can't reach you. You're braking too bad. So I got smoke towards the engine.
You were headed the right direction there a minute ago.
Engine 2270. Okay, we've got him.
202, copy. Or 2 is set down in the area of the IC.
That's affirmative.
2 copies, also 1/2 mile out at this time.
Okay, you go ahead and come in and land near Or 2 in
Air attack 240, lead IC. Air attack 240, lead IC.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a breaking message from engine 2276. I couldn't copy. Can you copy from up there anything he said?
I think I'll talk to the aircraft. I'll try to get engine 2276, Air attack 240. Back to us again.
Engine 2276.
We'd like to have you back. Redford.
Engine 2276, go ahead with your message.
Okay, I was just telling him that we're still in our shelters because there's a lot of hot embers still kicking us. The engines have been abandoned, and all I hear is the tires going off, but you shouldn't be able to miss us because in from the buses, if you head kind of north, you're going to run right over the top of the road we came in on.
Copy your location, engine 2276.
Tanker 140.
Engine 2276.
Yeah, we're trying to get you some air support as soon as we can to cool that area down. It's just not available.
And Beaver IC, Intermountain 1.
Intermountain 1, go ahead.
Yeah, Jerry, I copied part of his first message. He said that the explosions we heard were tires on a couple of the vehicles, and they had to back away from the area where the vehicles were. And it sounded like he said he found another area, and so far there was no personnel injuries.
That sounds real good.
I'm not getting him real good on copying him either.
You know, after I knew I was safe. So we laid down for, I don't know, it seemed like a long time then too. Time just went real slow. It slowed way down. And Dave told us to get up. So we followed everybody out to the road and laid down, and I was between Dave and Stacy. And Stacy had calmed down, and I was calm then. I knew I was going to make it when I got to the road and I was in the shelter, because it was just such a relief to be there. And, you know, it was cooler. I could breathe. And I wasn't in the engine. I didn't have to breathe the smoke anymore. And I was talking to Dave, and he was telling me how he was going to have to find a new occupation and all this. I was seriously thinking about it, too, at that point. But I didn't, and I was talking to Stace, and she was pretty calm and laid there, and her alarm went off for 6 o'clock, and I told her, oh, overtime now. And that, I don't know, it kept me calm to keep talking. And then
Copter 202, 22, Beaver IC, as soon as you can, get a bucket on. And from the south end of that thing, you'll follow some tracks and you ought to be able to pick up those engines. We need to get water in there to where those engines and crews are at just as quick as we can.
Beaver IC, tanker 140. You're on guard, Jim. Tanker 140.
Okay, go ahead, Beaver IC.
That's Tanker 140. We're about 15 minutes out.
Copy. Like I said, I know that the fire's still advancing, but my whole concern right now is where those crews are at. I want to cool that area where the engines and crews are at if we can see it.
All right, sir. We'll give you a call when we get in a little closer. I didn't know if you'd had the word or not, because we weren't able to communicate with anybody when we left.
I can't really copy. You're breaking. You must be on the other side of smoke cloud from me.
140, 1 on Victor. Air attack 240 on Blue Air, Jim. Okay, thank you, sir. Air attack 240, Tanker 140 on Blue. 240, 140, go ahead. Okay, we're about 15 minutes out. We were having a little communications problem here. I was thinking for a minute everybody turned their radio off, but we're in good shape now. Yeah, okay. The fire now is 6.5. We got wall 1 above us at 7. And we got 2 helicopters in the area. One's going to be bucket dropping in, trying to cool the area down where the crews were trapped, and then we're going to try to put your load of retard in there too, okay? We're going to have to look at it before you make a pass, so it's kind of we're all on the south side of the fire here. Okay, I'll be looking at the south side of the fire. That's where your priority is going to be, understand? Affirmative.
202, Beaver IC, the engine should be just about 2 o'clock from you or so in there somewhere.
Say again, your number is 2 o'clock. 8. It'll be pretty smoky in there, Jerry.
I know it. If we can't do nothing and you get back to your water, then go ahead and drop on some of these spot fires and start trying to slow the spread down. But my main concern is the engines that were burned over.
Copy. Have you seen anything of them yet, Steve? The engines? No, I haven't. I don't even know where to start looking.
Beaver IC.
But this copter's off in the area. He's digging out of that little pond, so we can go
At this point, it sounds like you got to get an investigation team up. We've at least got some equipment burned over here. However, it don't sound like the crew's in too bad a shape.
Yeah, he wants me to break out the stand on the engine now, is that it?
Move a little bit further to the east in the clearing here, and then I'll be shutting down.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, the engine 20.
On 1, go ahead.
Yeah, if you can see us down here to your left, there's a set of tracks that went right into those trees, and that's the way the engines went in. I don't know how far into that smoke you can get.
Copy. There was 2 buses over there. I didn't...
Yeah, we're right at the buses. We're moving them out into this flat and putting the bus. You'll see a set of tracks like a skid road going back into that timber.
202, engine 2276, you just went over.
Engine 2276, Intermountain 1. If you've got a message, go ahead.
Beaver IC says the only one. Said the copter just went over. I didn't hear it. I don't think they have that frequency up. Okay, talk to 76.
At 202, they'd be about 200-300 yards into your right more.
Intermountain Crew 1, engine 20.
Beaver, I see to the right.
Beaver IC, Intermountain 1. 2276 is trying to get a message out to us. If you could get everybody to stay off CDF 2 for a few minutes.
Susanville, or 1 on Blue Air. Copy. Did you see the shelters?
Intermountain 1, engine 2270.
Susanville, or 1 on Blue.
Go ahead, 2276, we copy.
Advise Beaver IC that I'm positive we've got at least 2 to 3 people with at least second-degree burns that were real close to the engine. So start that in motion anyway.
Yeah.
That's affirmative. Beaver IC, did you copy?
And kind of an emergency thing out on that Keeney.
Beaver IC, Intermountain
140. What did you say your altitude was? Radio traffic on 4SNAP. 6,500. Okay, we're coming below you.
81 on air to ground.
Yeah, I got the helicopter on.
202, Intermountain 1.
Go ahead, Intermountain 1.
We need to get a message to Beaver IC. I just talked to 2276. He's got 2 to 3, possibly 4 people with at least second-degree burns that were in close to the engines. Probably need to get some medevac started right away.
Copy. See Beaver.
That's affirmative. Copy. 3 or 4 burn victims.
Did you see where he dropped? No, I didn't. That's where the people are. You see the second smoke from the right that's coming out toward us? Yeah. They're right in there, right in the middle. That's the way they talk, isn't it? What's that? That's the way they were talking. They flew right over it the first time. Yeah. Suspected it was an overshoot by Hayden Hill. Got a large column of smoke over on the Shasta side. I have engine 2483 here. You want me to hold them or have them go ahead and try to go out there and have a look? Use your discretion. If you can't find it, bring him back to Beaver or else send him to 3-2 if the IC likes. Okay, affirmative. I'll hold him here for the time being till I get a hold with Beaver IC. Copy, Beaver. Thank you.
2276, Intermountain 1. You're getting covered up on this CDF 2. Why don't we go to number 5 on your handy-talkie, which is handy-talkie.net?
I don't think he knows where they are.
Intermountain Crew 1, engine 2276.
6202, go ahead. I wonder if Jerry's reading 2276. Should be. You need Dave? No, Jerry's the IC. Jerry somebody. Oh.
Engine 2276, Beaver IC.
Engine 2276, go ahead.
And it's starting to cool down any for you at all in there?
Fade along.
Beaver IC, Beaver.
Yes, we've got a couple people that just feel a little faint. It's better than I thought. Coming out.
Copy. We're trying to air support you there, trying to get the helicopter in to cool her down if we can.
Affirmative.
At 2276 Intermountain 1.
Go ahead.
Are you coming out the same way you went in?
Affirmative. What do you got?
We got a crew here to give you some help if you want us to come in after you.
Zero's right below you.
You need some assistance, we can come in and help you out.
Beaver IC, I gotta keep that damn frequency clear. Yeah.
You're just off to the right of us.
In the vicinity.
Copy, 76.
Yeah, Jerry, just letting you know that everything that 76 says is getting covered. You ought to have Susanville shut that frequency down to everything that is escape.
Hiked over. It didn't seem very far to me, but we hiked over to this road that we had driven in on. It was the clearest place, and we were told to deploy there. And when I got there, there were already 19 shelters laid out in front of me. That was kind of weird to see, and told us just to hit the deck and deploy. And then we were all feeling pretty good, but as soon as we deployed, I relaxed again, and I was on the ground, and I had my face in the dirt, boy. I was doing just like they said. And I just started shaking for about, it seemed a long time, probably wasn't very long, but it seemed 5 minutes at least. Just laying there shaking, because that was pretty exciting stuff.
Did that get on you? Working the helicopter close in here. We have a spotted
Intermountain Crew 1, engine 2276.
Pick up an orbit around the south side of this thing, and I'll try to in a position where you can watch the helicopter drop, okay? Okay, we don't have anybody in sight yet. Okay. 2276, 202.
Engine 2276, you went right over us that time. Good drop.
Yeah, you're coming out that skid road. I'll keep dropping on that road until you get clear.
Affirmative.
202. Yeah, we got up the site now. They're walking out, coming out the edge of the burn. They ought to get our copter right down there the edge. Well, I think they said it wasn't as bad as they thought it was. Just some people feeling faint. I see them down there in that little clearing. 140240, you can pick up an orbit around here now. The crew is walking out there out the edge of the burn. We'll get a status report and then go from there, okay? Okay, 140.
Come straight ahead, Intermountain 4, you're clear of the fire. IC 202.
Direct hit.
Beaver IC 202.
202, Beaver IC, go ahead.
We got a bunch of troops walking out on that skid road carrying their fire shelters, so it looks like pretty good so far.
That sounds great. Why don't you just sit right down there with the helicopter if they're all coming out, and let's see what we've got.
Will do.
Boy, it sends shingles up your spine. Sure does.
276 with her.
76.
With those engines on, we got the head count we're having problems with. I couldn't get any closer to those engines. They're fully involved. Try to keep your eyes open in there if the smoke ever clears.
And 140, we're holding about a mile south. Got you in sight. Yeah, that's a good spot for you now.
Okay, I had the engines in sight, and they're totally involved at this time. Beaver IC 202.
Yeah, go ahead, 202.
Yeah, we had the engines. I had two engines in sight, totally involved at that time.
And everything's
We got up, got my engine crew together, and inmate Delaney stayed with us, and we started walking out the road we'd come in on. We made about 100 yards, and the fire was burning so intense we couldn't walk through it. So I stopped, came back to where everybody else was grouped up. The helicopter started making bucket drops along the road, and that cooled it down enough to where we could walk out with our shelters held up over our heads. And I can remember it seemed like halfway out of the fire, and my arms got so tired I couldn't hold the shelter up anymore. It was just, the fire shelter doesn't weigh that much, but it was like I started to relax, and I realized we're not out of here yet, and I had to force my arms back up just to hold the weight of the shelter. We walked on out the road with the helicopter making bucket drops alongside of it to cool it down, and walked out past Intermountain Crew number 1, who was coming in to try and assist us on our evacuation of the area. We got out to the meadow. Everybody sat down in a circle and started kind of figuring out what had just happened to us and decompressing, and everybody was kind of halfway in shock, but really relieved that they were out of the situation we'd just been in.
Okay, the helicopter is working a pond just to the east side of the fire, and you shouldn't be any factor at all there, I don't think.
Beaver engine 2270.
Yeah,
engine 2276, Beaver IC, go ahead.
Okay, Jerry, we just had a head count. Everybody's fine. We got a little people with smoke inhalation and a lot of heat, but other than that, I think we're in great shape for all the people. Engines, that's another story.
That sounds great. If we need any ambulance care for smoke inhalation or something, are you out to the south end in the safe area? Yeah, John, what do you got?
I'm on our way now. We're well out in the clear, and we should be where the buses were originally shortly.
Copy. I'll work my way back in there, and we'll get an ambulance coming back in there.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem was. This thing...
2276.
Yeah, I got one spot I want you to drop on along about halfway down this left flank. Oh boy, that's good to hear. So we'll do 4 doors one time on one of them and 4 doors one time on the other one, okay? Okay, you want 4 doors at one time, half a load, right? Affirmative. So we got 20 guys down there never happier in their life to be alive. Okay, I don't have you in sight here, but the one just off my left wing right now, is that correct? Yeah, we're 12 o'clock high to you, and it's coming off your left wing now. That's the northernmost one. I think if you go for a direct hit, 4 doors one time. Okay, I'm going to go all the way back around the fire then and hit it, making the run the same direction. Okay, 140, as you go around there, you'll see another spot down that left flank. It's across the road. That's the second one I'm going to have you hit. Okay, that'd be the one, the one I'm going to drop on towards the fire, past one, and that'll be the next one, or the one closest to the main part of the fire. Yeah, the second one I want you to drop on is about 9 o'clock to you now, right off your left wing, right on the edge of the fire there. See that heavy flame lifting up in that tree? Yeah? Okay, it's just to the north of that, a couple hundred yards. by the bus.
Okay, I'll
Captain's out of the aircraft now.
here we come.